Hello, friends. This is Dr. Mack Crayton III. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the interface between science and spirituality with me, your host, Dr. Mack Crayton III. So, on this episode, we're in season 3 and episode 3. And I just wanted to come to you and ask you the question, how are you feeling? And what are you feeling? How are you feeling? And what are you feeling? Right? Just this week in the news, there's so much happening. Right now, it's June 2025, and there are riots happening in the city of Los Angeles, based upon ICE and the raids that are there. The National Guard has been sent in. The president is talking about sending in the Marines as well. And there are protests across the country in relation to protesting these raids that are happening throughout our country. And so it leaves us in a place of wondering, what are we feeling? How are we feeling about what's happening? There are some of us who are on board with it and believe that what's happening is going to make America a safer place. Okay? And you're confused by the protesting. There are others who are protesting and afraid and concerned that our democracy is on a slippery slope going towards dictatorship, right? And so there are many other things happening as well. There are others who are concerned about the dismantling of FEMA for those who live in the Gulf South region, as I do, living in the city of New Orleans. We are in hurricane season. As of June 1st, it's hurricane season, and it goes to November 30th. And we rely on FEMA when there are hurricanes that impact us, and tropical storms. For other areas of the country where tornadoes are there, there's flooding and mudslides and wildfires. We count on FEMA for the rebuilding of our homes, rebuilding of our cities, and to get our lives back together. And without a FEMA, what's going to be the process, and how do we rebuild? And so some of us are feeling things about that. So what are we feeling? How are we feeling? And then others may be on the healthcare side. So we're looking at deregulation of vaccines. And we're wondering, what is that going to look like when school starts again in just a few months? And if there are children who are going into schools without their vaccines, there's going to be an upsurge in the flu or other viruses. And what does that mean for the teachers and staff who may be older and have compromised immune systems, or children who may have compromised immune systems, and there isn't regulation of the vaccines? So there's a lot that's going on in our world today, and it leaves us to wonder, or makes me come to you and ask the question, how are you feeling, and what are you feeling? Okay, this is important, and we want to talk about it with the interface between spirituality. Our scripture for this segment is going to be Proverbs 23:7. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Okay? And then we're going to interface that with science, biological science, particularly the branch of biological science called neuroscience or neurobiology. And we'll also look at it from the aspect of psychology. So the neurobiology is going to look at the physical brain itself, and psychology will be looking at the mental part of our brain and our thoughts, right? The intangible parts of it. So what are we thinking? How are we feeling? As we mentioned, Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Of course, we don't think with our heart, and so the heart is our muscle to pump our blood. But in the Bible, the heart is often referenced when it's really focused on the mind. And so we're seeing what, as a person thinks in their mind, so are they. So what does that mean? If you think you're defeated, then you are. If you think you're victorious, then you are. If you think you are sick unto death, then you are. If you think you're healed and you're going to conquer cancer or whatever the disease is, you will, right? And so it may be outside of God's will. So you may think that you are a conqueror, and it may be God's will that He takes you or heals you on the other side, right? Heals you through death. But we found both in the medical profession and in science that if you have a more positive outlook and more positive support from family, then you have better health outcomes. What does that also mean in terms of neurobiology? Neurobiology says, and I'll take a sip of water, and while I'm taking a sip of water, we'll do a commercial break for merch, right? Mug, t-shirt, book, and we're talking from the book, my book, Brain, Mind, Soul, and Spirit, the interface between science and scripture, available on my website, CraytonServicesLLC.com, but the book is also available on Amazon.com. All right, so back to what we were talking about. So in neurobiology or neuroscience, we will look at the physical brain, right? And studies show that routine or habitual patterns of thinking can cause the reshaping of the brain. So if your pattern of thinking is negative, then your brain reshapes and builds networks that lead you consistently to negative thoughts. So when something happens in life, you immediately think the negative. If you're going in a new situation and you're meeting new people for the first time on a new job, at a new school or something, if you wire to think negatively, you automatically think, they're not going to like me. Everybody's going to be better than me. They're going to be smarter than me. They're going to be more experienced than me. They're going to have better clothes than me, or whatever. It'll be a negative thought. However, if you train yourself to habitually think positive thoughts, it causes your brain to reshape or rewire so that your default system is positive thinking and you're optimistic. So you go there and you think about the new relationships you're going to build, the new friendships and the lasting friendships, the new things you're going to learn on that new job or at that new school. Lasting friendships. If you're single, you may learn, hey, I will find a significant other. You never know. So positive thinking will cause you routinely and habitually positively thinking causes the brain to reshape to do that, to go towards the default of positive thinking rather than the negative. Then in psychology, okay, so as a man thinketh, so is he. Same. In psychology, it's the same. So as you believe things for yourself, that comes into being because consciously and subconsciously, you began to work towards that goal. So you enter that physics course and you're like, or that math course is like, I'm not so great in math. But you tell yourself, I'm going to be successful in this course. And you repeat that daily for yourself, and you even write the mantra. You write down the grade, including the actual percentage score that you plan to make in that course, and your brain will start you working towards it. So every quiz you take, every exam you take, you'll compare your score to the one that you wrote down, your goal score, and say, hey, I need to work harder. I said I was going to get a 90%. I made a 75. I need to work a little harder, right? And you'll continue to do that. It may even cause you to go to your teacher's office for after school tutoring, or to your professor's office, or to the tutoring center to help you. Or you'll, self-tutor using some YouTube videos or something to kind of get your grade up so that you can meet your goal. The last we're going to look at in psychology is called smile therapy or facial coding. And what that is your facial expression triggers chemical reactions in the brain, and that will then begin to shape your mood. So one is an example using a pencil, and that's why I'm holding this pencil and waving it around. And he said, if you put the pencil between your teeth and you hold it so that your lips don't touch the pencil, it forces a smile. I'll show you. Yeah, and so it causes my cheeks here and I remove the pencil, and I'm still smiling. A big cheesy smile, right? So, according to psychological studies, if you hold that pencil there for about 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, it will begin that chemical reaction in your brain to release those endorphins that will shift you from a melancholy mood to a happier mood. So that saying, grin and bear it, put a smile on your face. Um, it does change your mood because your muscles in your face will cause that chemical reactions. And then the reverse, if you're frowning and looking gloom and doom, then you're going to have that same chemical response. So we will close with, there are going to be things that happens in life. We can't control what's going on with the government. We can't control whether we'll be in a car accident. We can't control whether we'll get sick, sprain an ankle, or whatever. But we can respond to, or we can control rather, how we respond to what happens to us in life. So taking on a positive attitude, right? As a man thinketh, so is he. And if you believe you can, you will, right? So think about the positive, and the positive will come to you. And even when it seems like things are still just getting worse and worse, continue to put on that happy face. This has been Dr. Mack Crayton talking to you about science and spirituality, talking about our thoughts, our minds. What are you thinking? How are you feeling? I do pray that you will weather this storm as we're going through the challenges of life. Know that from the lyrics of Will Smith's song, every storm runs out of rain eventually. So things will get better. Hard times don't last always. But keep your chin up, keep a smile on your face, and think positive thoughts, and you'll get through it. This has been Dr. Mackie Crayton. I thank you for the privilege of your time. Join me again each week for the interface between science and spirituality with me, your host, Dr. Mackie Crayton.